We are living through a silent epidemic of fractured attention, where the greatest threat to our future is no longer a lack of opportunity, but the systematic hijacking of our own minds. Every single day, we wake up intending to build, to achieve, and to focus, yet we find ourselves helplessly trapped in an invisible loop of cheap, instant gratification. The uncomfortable truth is that modern society has engineered an environment explicitly designed to exploit our biology against us, turning our natural drive for survival into a relentless addiction to the next notification, the next scroll, and the next screen. We have traded long-term fulfillment for short-term stimulation, and in doing so, we are losing our capacity to think deeply, work deeply, and live deeply. We are playing a finite, transactional game with an infinite biological asset. If we do not urgently reclaim control of our neural pathways, shifting from passive consumers of distraction to disciplined masters of our focus, we aren't just losing our daily productivity, we are willingly forfeiting our highest human potential to a system designed to keep us weak, distracted, and defeated. Men are biologically wired to hunt, conquer challenges, and build a lasting legacy driven by a deep sense of purpose. But today, that primal masculine drive has been completely hijacked by a system that rewards passive reaction over intentional action. Instead of conquering real-world obstacles, men are now spending their biological energy reacting to cheap, artificial triggers on a screen. This shift from proactive building to reactive consumption deeply alters male psychology, turning natural leaders into passive observers. When a man trades his long-term vision for the immediate gratification of a manufactured digital loop, he loses his fundamental capacity to lead, focus, and dominate his goals. Modern men are retreating from the vital mental friction required to build true psychological resilience. By succumbing to the endless loop of frictionless gratification, the male brain is conditioned to expect high reward without any physical or mental sacrifice. This infinite scroll fallacy tricks a man's psychology into believing he is exploring and conquering, when in reality, he is merely numbing his innate drive to face real-world resistance. This constant exposure to effortless rewards systematically erodes a man's capacity to endure deep focus. When resistance is entirely removed from his daily habits, his mental stamina completely breaks down under pressure. He sacrifices his long-term capability to achieve difficult, meaningful goals for the sake of an endless, unearned digital high. A man's deepest psychological need is to build something that outlasts him, a legacy that requires years of patient sacrifice. Yet, the dopamine trap has forced modern men to trade this infinite vision for a series of cheap, short-term transactions. We have replaced the enduring pride of long-term mastery with the fleeting thrill of instant novelty. This transactional lifestyle fundamentally alters how a man perceives his own worth and long-term capability. When we prioritize the immediate rush of digital novelty over the slow, agonizing process of building a true legacy, we actively train our brains to fear sustained effort. The quiet spaces where a man once found his vision and strategy have been completely replaced by constant digital stimulation. Historically, men used moments of absolute stillness to map out their future, solve complex problems, and find their deep inner drive. Today, we panic when the noise stops, instantly reaching for a screen to escape the discomfort of our own thoughts. Reclaiming this empty void through strategic boredom is an urgent necessity to rebuild a man's capacity for deep, visionary focus. When we deliberately allow ourselves to be bored, we force the brain to generate its own sustained clarity. Every time a man sets an intention to work but allows his attention to be fractured by a notification, he breaks a fundamental contract with himself. A man's confidence is deeply tied to his ability to keep his word, yet constantly shifting between tasks teaches his brain that his own promises do not matter. This broken cognitive contract destroys internal trust, leaving him feeling completely incapable of sustained progress. Modern male anxiety rarely stems from a lack of talent. It comes from the quiet shame of losing control over our own focus. Rebuilding that shattered self-trust requires a radical commitment to doing exactly one thing at a time. To thrive, a man must reclaim the discipline of single-minded execution, choosing to finish what he starts without digital escape routes. Radical monotasking is not a mere productivity tool. It is an act of reclaiming personal sovereignty. When a man locks onto a single objective, he restores the integrity of his internal contract. A man's ultimate freedom is not found in doing whatever he wants, but in his ability to choose the heavy burden of discipline over the easy numbness of digital distraction. Every single day, a man stands at a psychological crossroads where he must decide whether to bear the weight of his own potential or surrender to the effortless comfort of a screen. The modern world promises that distraction is harmless entertainment, but in reality, it is a slow, numbing anesthesia that strips away a man's edge, his grit, and his drive. When we choose the cheap comfort of a short-term dopamine hit, we are actively opting out of the raw struggles that forge masculine character. Sovereign focus requires a man to willingly step into the arena of discomfort and accept that anything of true value demands a heavy biological sacrifice. True psychological strength is realized when a man decides that his long-term vision is worth far more than his immediate emotional comfort. The most fulfilled men are not those who successfully avoided pain, but those who intentionally chose the right kind of pain. The pain of focus, of deep work, and of unyielding commitment to a cause greater than themselves. When a man reclaims his attention, he reclaims his sovereignty, shifting from a passive participant in someone else's digital economy to the absolute author of his own destiny.